This broadcast is inappropriate for all ages, right here on Jam on Toast. It's time for the Watch Spot. I am Kamurai, here today to do something just a little different. I am going to talk about TV stuff from the past couple weeks since we've had a break, but if you are watching the video version, I have moved the camera setup a little bit to try to help me be less nauseated. I hit some kind of weird issue where if I'm looking at the camera and the monitor behind it, it's not working out, and the angle from that desk is just not great. I haven't figured out how to use this room properly yet. So sorry. It's a weird room with the natural light in the corner, and the door where it is, the bookcases have to go either here or on that wall, and then the desk has to go in that corner or this corner, and it just wasn't working out in this corner because I had the window in my way. The only other thing I can think of is to do something where you put the desk not in the corner. It doesn't matter. This is not that show. We'll try to do that Thursday, which I believe is tomorrow. Nope, 2 days from now. 2 days from now. So, I apologize to audio listeners if you happen upon this. But we are going to go ahead and do things. I also have my notes on my tablet today, so we're going to do it that way. And not that my notes are great, because there's just so much to cover. And I've actually considered doing a Tumblr just to do the notes and then copy the Tumblr posts into the notes section. I may experiment with that just because I happen to have a Tumblr. And I don't know if I'm going to do a Jam on Toast Tumblr yet, but we'll figure that out. I'm just happy that the set actually looks good. It's the worst part of it is me. Look at that. Okay, I'm getting distracted. It's what I get for taking a day off. I get complacent. It's like Rooster Kitty. Okay, so there's a cat like right there. Okay, so over on Two Broke Girls, starting out on CBS, Max and Caroline learn Han's in trouble with just weird gangsters. I don't know if it's a Korean thing or what, but they were just real flashy. And I kind of felt like Max and Caroline weren't being super facetious, and they're like, what is this guy? This isn't a real thing. This isn't a real threat. So they sold that well, but then the dude made a lot of good points. Like, if I say I'm going to take your toes, and then I don't take your toes, I'm the guy that says he's going to take toes, but doesn't take your toes. So, like, I had to respect that. But Han being a gambling addict actually makes a lot of sense. And it actually adds a new twist and mechanic to everything that's happening so far. So they are setting up for a larger story arc, which is impressive for this show because it's super episodic for the most part. It's like, what adventure did Caroline and Max get into today? And I'm sure Max would say it's Max and Caroline. But for whatever reason, he's gambling on women's tennis. That was impressive. And it leading into it being a whole episode leading into the setup that they are part owners with Han, is actually a catalyst into success. As shithole as the diner is, that the fact that they are now partnered with a established business in the same location that they're at, and they have this rudimentary partnership with the pizzeria place next door, it's creating a very symbiotic thing. There's a lot of business mojo happening in the show right now, and I don't know if that's clear to people who are looking for a comedic show, but we'll see here shortly, because the season can't go on too much longer, and they've got to come to a point of some kind. Over on New Girl, 2 episodes. I don't remember how they were released, but this is one of those shows that kind of has an A-B storyline. The A storyline being that Schmidt forgot his vows, not because that's the bigger story here. It's the smaller story arc, but it's part of the bigger story arc. For whatever reason, we're already throwing Sam away. That I'm spoil that right now, because I don't see why they got him back together, especially given the fact that they break up again so soon. The whole thing is that Jess. Oh my god, no, stop. Why is Skype even open on that computer? Okay, can I quit from here? My eyesight is not that good. Oh, quit Skype. My apologies. My apologies. I didn't even realize it was on. And that's just gonna be in the background. That's fine. Um, let's see here. Yep, that's not copyrighted music at all. Yeah, so she cons everybody into playing True American just to delay this weird conversation with Sam, where she thinks like or he's gonna propose, and of course that's not the case because why would that be the case? That'd be too sensible a thing to happen. Um, so she just delays him dumping her, which is equally bad, but it's not about her because the A storyline is it's meant for guys' spouse because we got this wedding thing. Once this wedding's out of the picture, I'm really hoping we get back to it being a show about Jess because I really think it's taken like a season or two to derailment at this point, uh, dealing with all these other issues, and then with Schmidt and Cece being married. I don't know how that's going to work because will Cece and Schmidt move out of their respective places, get a place together? Will they not be as involved in the storyline? It's really curious about where it's going to go, but I just hope it goes back to being a center point in Jess and we resolve to some kind of reasonable point. Because as funny as it is, Jess kind of has her dream job. Um, let's see. Then of course we have to have one last fiasco before they're married because we actually haven't had an episode where they're married together yet because Schmidt ends up on a plane the whole episode, which is kind of a dumb place to put him. He can't really do much with his character there. Uh, because he is a control character, which is the whole premise for landing him there, is that he wanted to get Cece's mom back to New York for the wedding. And of course, he removed himself from the entire equation by trying to control it, and putting himself in a situation where he has no control, i.e., an airplane. And that's really the whole punchline for the entire episode. They get married via internet anyways. So the next episode we see, which I don't remember if that's the next season or not because I'm very bad at realizing when it's a finale, will be the first episode where they're married. And I can imagine either there being 2 episodes left where they set up a lot of stuff and then they go, oh yeah, we're not going to be around anymore, guys. What do you think was going to happen when we were married? Or they start that out next season. And it's probably going to be that they'll start out next season knowing these guys. Over in Big Bang Theory, Leonard and Penny try to have a wedding ceremony everyone can attend. So it's wedding season in the comic world. So it's funny to see all these side characters get together and interact because none of them like each other, almost. But it's really just Leonard's mom and that's the big deal that Penny tries to make is by bonding with her. And I don't understand the contention with this character. Like, either she's emotional or she's not. It doesn't make sense that like a lot of the stuff's going on. If you just removed her character from the equation, a lot of things would go a lot smoother. Even if his dad is the guilty one, she's not really like free of villainy either. And then the idea Leonard and Sheldon being brothers. That is funny enough. That's a 3rd season joke right there. Oh man, I wish they had done that a lot sooner. That would have been funny. Odd Couple. I got 4 episodes on here for whatever reason, so forgive me if I don't remember what's happening properly. There's a whole thing where Emily thinks her birthday's cursed, and Felix, of course, goes to the 9 ends of the world to try to fix this conception that her birthday's cursed. And in due course, of course, there's a lot of comedy revolving around the idea that that's not going to happen. Oh yeah, and then Oscar finally meets Charlotte's kid, who apparently is the devil. No, it's just funny to see a child manipulating adults type scenario in sitcoms at all anymore. I thought that was the thing we were done with. To see it pop up here in The Odd Couple is oddly appropriate, but is a little funny, if I'm being honest. And then we have a whole episode where Felix is basically a crazy person because he gets back into chess. Having Felix be a chess player when he was a kid and having a mental breakdown over it, yeah, totally fits his character. Super happy that that was the thing that we did. Um, and combining Oscar's gambling problem with Felix's competitive issues is actually like a weird synergy between the characters, and I like that sort of idea that to synergize them a little bit more to get them more on the same page because that's the whole point is that we have two extremes of people and we're finding a middle ground somewhere, but to go dark with it like that, and it's not as dark as you could go, but it's still dark. Oof. Let's see. Felix forces Oscar and Emily on a date, and they get along not better than Emily and Oscar or Felix, but they get along in their own way that doesn't include Felix by his design, um, doing things that Felix doesn't like to do. So they've got a weird outlet for like because they're around. Felix is the person they're both around the most. So if they want to do things that don't involve him, they don't get that many opportunities to do it because they're good friends and they like to include Felix. But now they have this weird outlet that they can go do things where Felix won't do, and then Felix is left alone because they are the two people that he spends the most time with. And that's actually I actually found that kind of sad. It was really kind of heart tuggy, stringy type things. Um, but I like the idea of the three of them being around and those two having like bets on things that Felix does. Like just there's just gonna be this like floating pot. uh, Felix learning to drive. I feel like they stole that from Sheldon Cooper, but uh, the original Odd Couple was early enough that Sheldon Cooper could have stole that from the original Odd Couple. I don't know enough about the original series. I like Matthew Perry and Mr. Lennon. I can't remember. I think that's his last name. The guy who plays Felix Unger, one of his names is Lennon. He's pretty good, and I really like Emily. I'm kind of glad they ditched the her roommate or her former roommate, whatever it was. Like I didn't really like her, and Charlotte. Not only is a better actress, but is a better character, I think. And having the kid involved is definitely an X factor that we can come back to repeatedly. Over in Silicon Valley, I've got two of these because it's been a while. Um, for whatever reason, oh man, this is so funny. Like starting your own company and creating a product that you believe in and doing something fantastic with it is a dream any programmer or project worker, maker, creator, whatever only dreams of. But to have it taken over from you and still have to work on it as what you consider an inferior product is something that I really relate to. And that's what's happening here is they're forced to work in the box and they come up with this brilliant plan to skunk works it, which they could have done. Um, and instead they get strong and Richard in the worst way possible stands up to Jack. Um, and they make like a better box than he wants, which allows him to market it better and use it against them. And the only thing that saves them is the other guy from Hooli trying to screw him over, and that's real dick. Like to personally call over and be like, I just wanted to rub it in your face that I'm a better business guy than you. It's ridiculous. And then the fact that he shot himself in the foot to begin with because he fired all those people who went to a competing company and then he bought that competing company who was mostly made up of his own people. And the fact that they had the whole algorithm, so he actually bought an entity that had the entire middle out process that the same guys were working on. It's amazing. The fact that Ehrlich and Big Head now become frenemies is fantastic. Um, I gotta say, like the board. The board is something that's weirdly bothering me. It's this weird mechanical entity that I don't think a lot of people will get on board with. I understand its function and why it's there and why it could be there in future. And I like the actors that are doing Lori and Marissa, but Marissa's character really took a back seat. I don't know what the hell she's actually doing for the company per se at this point, and it's very clear what Lori's role is, but she's such a purposely unreachable character that I don't know. It's very odd choices there. Um, let's see. And so that leads to Lori exiting Jack at the end of the episode, and then we end up with a full episode of no CEO. But with no CEO in place, that allows Richard to act as CEO without any authority above him to stop him, other than Lori, who is purposely not there, actively looking for CEOs. But because she didn't read Richard in on the fucking situation, that's the thing where it's like we got to be on the same page, and you've got to like communicate with your teammates. You got to, because if not, they go off and do something else rogue. Now, it is fucking stupid to set up a PR interview at the same time that you have a real interview. You set up the PR interview first, a half hour to hour ahead of time, and then the interviewer shows up on site. That is a fuckery that I couldn't have imagined, other than like when I walked in, like, is that going to be the reporter? Oh no, it's the reporter. The fact that they had something over Nucleus or Hooli or whatever at all to counteract it was a miracle. Like, even by the storyline standards, I didn't see it being a thing. But and then Big Head and Urlock, that story is going to go somewhere, and I can't wait to see where it goes. The biggest problem being that Nucleus, or not Nucleus, Pied Piper's not part of their business deal because Urlock's not actually involved in it. So yeah, so it's a great show. I'm really happy with what it's doing. Let's see. Last Man on Earth. Phil and his brother. Oh yeah. Okay, so I don't know what to do with this one. Like, it's really just a heartfelt episode of, oh, we're gonna bond because we're brothers. I want to die alone and not put you through this again. Because like he realizes that Phil like probably dug his grave, and he came back from the dead only to die again. It's a weird thing, and I don't know like what they're doing with it. If they're gonna, what you would do mechanically is actually have Phil's brother. I apologize for saying that, but I don't remember his name. Have him actually not be immune, but develop resistance against the virus, and then he would actually be a source of a vaccine. Now, because the immunity people, because the virus doesn't affect them, it doesn't mean they don't have it, but it doesn't mean that they're contagious. Virology is a really weird thing, but if you're following the science, what you want is someone to be infected and overcome it, not be completely immune to it. Because if it just doesn't affect them, then they're special and everyone else is still screwed, because the virus is ignoring them because they don't have the right markers or something. Yeah, so there's science for you. Over on Crowded, this was an interesting way to go, having most of the episode in a gay strip club. I don't know why it had to be a gay strip club. Maybe they were just trying to be progressive, but okay. It could have just been a male strip club for women or men or whoever likes it. Like, I really think at this point, like, we're just a bunch of people sitting here liking guys take their clothes off. I think that's the message you're sending when you're the audience in that crowd, because they're women at a great gay strip club, so they're almost invading if it's a gay strip club. Or maybe that's just what you call strip clubs where guys take their, I don't know. I'm not informed. It's really weird. But it's really touching to see because they get closer together, because it's like no matter what you do, you're part of this family. And dude is ripped. He is a good-looking guy. I don't care about that at all. But it becomes this excellent springboard to remove his character from the storyline because he's going to move out to LA. And in the olden days of sitcoms, I see the olden days, like the 90s, he would have got his own spin-off show in LA, and then you would have got like phone call cameos between characters on Crowded and Jiggy with it in LA, or whatever the fuck they would have called it. because he's trying to be a professional dancer. And probably he wouldn't just stay in LA. He'd travel a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing him get his own show. I don't know if he could carry it on his own, but you put a couple good supporting actors in there, and I think they could handle it. The next episode is they trick his dad out of going to a cabin so that they can go to a cabin, get away from the girls. Of course, mom tells the girls where they are, so the girls follow him, and then his mom shows up, and then his dad shows up to yell at them about stealing the cabin from him, which I still think is a funny move. So in order to get away, he actually drew everyone there. So that's actually the trick there for parents listening. It's you make it seem as if you went to the cabin and then you go somewhere else, like the Motel 6 down the road, or wherever you go to get your freak on and not your bed. So, okay, Mom was an interesting couple of weeks, too, because we really kind of subtly centered on Violet. Given that they broke up, Violet's moved back in, and they're seeing a lot of behavioral patterns in her that Christy exhibited later in life, but still. And so she's very clearly has some kind of problem, whether she's just a teenager who parties too much, or that is at risk of being an alcoholic drug user, or if she is an alcoholic drug user. It's very cloudy, and I don't know enough about that world to sympathize a solution out of it. But it's funny to see Christy and Bonnie take her on, and Bonnie really step up to be a good mom to Violet, and Christy actually applaud that. I really thought that was sweet. And then we have an whole episode, basically Anna Fair's crying about money. I don't like seeing her cry. Her fake cry is weird. If she really cries like that, I feel for her husband, which I believe is Chris Pratt. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. But college is expensive, even community college, and then law school. It's ridiculous. It's really, if you can study and pass things on your own, fantastic. Because I think the only requirement to really be a lawyer is to pass the bar. But in order to do that, you need to know and have memorized a lot of things, and law school is designed to give you that familiarity with the process, and put you through the rigmarole of sticking all that information in your brain. And good luck to you, because I can't even get myself to research toe signage properly. Real O'Neill's, I'm really on the fence about this show because it has such an interesting premise, but like they do weird things. Like they did a whole episode where he's cheating on his mom with another mom. And then we have a more interesting episode where they're trying to date, like basically mom's ready to bang the vice principal, and then but she's not okay with it. So there's contention there, and then dad is dating the woman from the crime scene lab, which I thought was going to go really well eventually, but he has a bad situation, so she's not into it, and he's the one stepping up to be a responsible parent and deal with the kids this episode. I'm not saying that it's not always the case. So she gets thrown into that, and just having kids is a lot, but having kids that like pretend to be police officers, and these particular kids, that's a lot to do with. So my sympathies. So obviously that's not going to happen, and I think by the end of the season, we're going to determine that while they want to be apart, or they want to divorce, or be separated, or whatever the fuck it is, I think we're going to see them ending up getting back together because they happen to work well, at least while they have the kids. Because they're trying to find all these rules and then not have rules. It's really weird back and forth. Fresh Off the Boat is also, like, it's good that I group these things because you get those family dynamics of rules together. For whatever reason, we have a colonial Orlando. I don't think Florida was part of the original colonies. I'm just saying. But we have a colonial style thing where apparently Jessica's all into history and she goes out to try to be a fun mom. Which is a nice bonding episode between Eddie and Jessica, because usually she's just praising the other two for being good Chinese boys, and Eddie obviously is American. We're talking about nationalities here, not ethnicities. He is uh, true American. He likes the thug life in theory, and maybe it's just that he is a bigger guy in a world of skinny little people. I don't know. I don't know. If you just look at him, he doesn't look like he fits in that there are psychological things that would point you to going to these places of rebellion or thug life or whatever you want to call it. So it's interesting. Uh, but the next episode was really interesting. The Evan Jessica gets upset that Eddie has a girlfriend at all that she doesn't know about because she does not understand his words. And then just getting her more involved is fun. But so they try to set it up so that they can meet, and she panics and sends a Chinese girl in her place. And it's weird how that sort of thing works out. It's like, here's exactly what you want. Figure out why you don't like it. It's kind of like making someone smoke a pack of cigarettes. It's interesting in that regard. Over in Grandfather, it's basically Jimmy and Sarah banging and trying to write everything based off that, which I'm kind of happy for. Whatever, and Sarah's probably my favorite character on the show. And I'm glad that Jimmy grew to be a good enough person that like I'm actually okay with it because he's still kind of a douchebag, but at least he's a caring douchebag at this point, if that's a thing that we care about. Over on the middle, the kids coming home from college is always a pain in the ass because now you've got kids that you're not used to dealing with up in your business, and the parents are tracking them on their apps, all the apps, and the kids are tracking the parents, and it becomes this whole lesson about how to trust each other. And then of course we have Brooke's graduation coinciding with Sue leaving for Dollywood and the celebration thereof. It was really kind of fun to see Frankie go full ham on the administration on Brick's behalf. And if for nothing else, watch the last 10 minutes to see the little ditty thing that happens at the graduation ceremony. I think basically anybody would enjoy that. I thought it was real interesting, and I want to see that aspect come back because as atypical as Brick is, they've never explored him musically, if you will. Over Bob's Burgers, still so glad someone got me to watch this. Tina goes to horse camp, and because she's a little know-it-all, or they think, they stick her on a troublesome horse, which is fucked up, is what it is. I guess to try to embarrass her or give her a hard time. I think that's messed up, and Tina should just said, "I can't handle this." But that's Tina, and so she rides her imaginary horse instead. But we come to this weird thing. Really, the crux of it to me is Bob going, this is the practicality, the reality of it, but his wife is such a romantic that she goes, look at her, she's so happy, that's what we paid for. And I like both aspects, but there has to be some middle ground, and I think that's got to be a lot of the point. Bob going on a bender with chefs around town, like, I like that character has those aspirations, like respect for real chefs. Not that he's not a real chef, but he's a burger chef, and it's just the reality of the situation. I'm not saying he couldn't be some grandiose chef making frog wall and snails, but it's not what Bob does. He does burgers, and he does burgers well, and he does it well enough that other chefs, master chefs, respected enough that like they want him in on the society. And why would he want to throw that away? It's part of his dream. I love that these characters are real people. It's almost like they really knew a family that was like this, and they wrote little aspects of this family into this show. And I love the writing. The writing's amazing. To which I don't know what I was going for. They have like little prank wars or whatever, and Bob ends up glued to a toilet seat, or not a toilet seat, a toilet, because it's a Swiss toilet that doesn't have a seat, which I don't know why they have that, or why they have another toilet in the same restaurant that's permanently clogged. And honestly, his wife bothers me a bit because, yeah, I want the kids to be happy, but you don't get to clog a toilet with stuffed animals. That's just wrong. But the fact that that works out in his favor at all between that the chefs and this is actually a big story point because Bob's Burgers, unlike Simpson, or well, no, not unlike Simpsons, but Simpsons ran a long time with little to no continuity, and Family Guy has little to no continuity as well. American Dad probably has a little bit more. Cleveland Show actually did have a lot of continuity, which may have been its downfall. Um, this show has a lot of continuity as well, and it's well written continuity. If you look at the history, just in the opening credits, there's canonical chronology built into the show, and it's fantastic. Modern Family, for whatever reason, we're on a train. I don't know why we have to have a train episode on every show. It doesn't make sense. Luke strikes out with this geography teacher that he thinks he's gonna bang, but she's just upset he doesn't know where anything is. Oh man. And then Manny thinks Alex likes him. Again, I think this is a recurring thing. I think Manny has a hard on for Alex, is really what it is, and he's just too much of a wuss to act on it. Which is fine because we don't need that kind of family drama. And Manny seems to be doing okay for a kid. So good for him. And then I can never remember their names, but the older couple, Joe, not Joe, Joe's the kid. Jack and Gloria arguing with somebody else who's going to like his ex-wife's wedding or something. I don't know. And then Cameron and Phil. This was the A storyline to me, anyways. Was the dealing with the writer who wasn't up to date on technology. Oh geez, writing a murder mystery on a train that couldn't happen, and they have to try to prove it. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Write the damn story, write it how you want, just set it in an earlier time period. Really. Okay, in the next episode, Claire having to fire an employee that becomes contentious with, because just PR wise. Though, like, even if they think she's a bitch, like, really, that's not the worst thing in the world for your employees to think of you. Phil starts to catch Luke with a girl. Luke subsequently gets dumped. And then there's actually a nice touching scene between Mitch Cameron and Lily about Cameron going away and them all trying to deal with it and being frustrated with him. And in the end, it turned out that it was a lot of good things happening, just disguises. And that's why I don't like surprises. Like, let's talk about stuff, be on the same page, and have a good time from start to finish. I'd much rather have a consistently good day than like a shitty day followed by a really nice surprise. Just saying. Family Guy. Interesting to make Tom like the center of attention. There's a new anchor in town who's younger and hotter than Tom. So, of course, comedy ensues trying to make Tom young and hip. Again, I feel like we did this story before. Of course, Peter uses it to his own ends. Oh yeah, because they're trying to get their wives to stop oogling the new anchor. And I think it came down to not him being younger, hipper, but just him supposedly having a bigger penis or something, which apparently everyone's fine with. And it's okay. They all have shapes and sizes. Bang your husbands, bang your girlfriends, wives, boyfriends, partners. Yeah. Over in DC Legends of Tomorrow, this is kind of a weird one, because we had a definitive end of the story arc, of one story arc, anyways, but it kind of left a thread hanging. They managed to get at the Time Masters. I don't know how this happens if they're able to manipulate time, but they get at the Time Masters and they manage to destroy the Oculus so that the Time Masters can't control time anymore, therefore essentially freeing everyone from their tyrannical grip. And I guess we're just going to deal with the aliens on our own because we won't have Savage to fight them off, which is a weird idea that another species is going to come and deal with Earth. And does that mean that there are aliens that can be time masters and they have their own 0 point, like, or vanishing point? It raises a lot of questions. But of course, after they destroy the Oculus, they have a whole episode where they go after Savage, but you can't just kill Savage in the first 5 minutes and have dead air. You've got to, like, I don't know, push everyone away that would help you complete your goal, and then have them force themselves on you so that you can go kill Savage in 10 minutes, because you're going to slow down and everything with fight scenes, and then have about, I don't know, 20 minutes to, or 10, 20 minutes to wrap up and feel nice about everything. And I want to say it ends with the Hawk people not going back with Rip, but everyone else jumping back on board to kind of pal around with Rip. And good for them. I don't know. Once Upon a Time's all screwed up. What are we doing? I don't care about Java right now. With Robin having recently died, Regina's all sad and depressed, and everyone's afraid she's going to go evil queen on him. So Emma tries to bench Regina. A situation comes up where Regina's actually the one involved, and she benches Emma, and then they unbench each other, and they go off to save the day together against Gold, because of course he's our new villain. Now, he's a villain in a weird sense, because he's just trying to save Belle, but he's not actually doing too many other evil things independent of that. It's all pieces that he needs to save Belle, but he's already previously declared that he's not going to give up the power to Belle. So I don't know what we're doing here. Like, I don't know what the end game is with Gold. But in the process, everyone tries to escape back to the Enchanted Forest, and something comes through and grabs a group of them, and they get taken away and put in a cage. And it turns out that it's a Jekyll and Hyde area, where Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are very much in contention of each other, because that's what they do. But Dr. Jekyll manages to fix, was it Rowena's wand? Yeah, for them to try to get them to escape. Hyde gets his hands on it and actually steals Belle from Gold at the same time that Henry has the goblet of let's eat magic, and has vowed with his little girlfriend to erase magic from the world. And of course they need magic to save Belle and everyone who's stuck in the other place. So it's this weird back and forth of, like, yeah, we need magic, but just enough to do what we need to do to get on with things. And because nobody read everybody else in, I'm getting tired of saying that, they're at odds with each other for the same goals. But with Hyde having Belle and everyone else having escaped Hyde, I don't know where we go from there, because they're going to have to go back to get Belle, and then deal with everything. And I'm wondering if Excalibur is going to be a key, because the goblet that Henry has is a countermeasure to Excalibur and the dagger, so we'll just have to see what rules they let us in on. Okay, got a couple episodes for the catch here. A lot happened. So there's a whole setup episode where it's basically the biggest point is that they steal a dog to get at a lady to get her to help them counterfeit money, I think was the end goal with her. But she fights for a partnership, so they all are starting to flatten the playing field, because it's becoming mommy, brother, sister, and then everyone else is coming up to the sister's level. And the sister and the brother are starting to contend enough that they're starting to even out their level, which brings him down to the same level with everyone else. And Ben is actually part of Reese's level, And then Mommy Dearest is, of course, at the top of things, and she is more psychotic than Reese is, which is amazing because she. It's neat when sociopaths meet because they have things they care about because those people give them things. They have people that they protect because they have things they care about for their own self-interest, but their each other's self-interest does not come into that equation, so they would like just nonchalantly kill each other's protective people with disregards to what those things matter or the things that they provide matter to the other people. Um, and that's why you kill those people because then they can't come back and fuck it up because they do not understand what it is to be non-sociopathic. It's like no, this is just how life is, and it's almost like we have two different species running on in the same breeding cycle. It's a very weird phenomenon. Um, but of course, after that, there's a lot of back and forth happening, prepping for the wedding. Of course, Ben and Reese have to pose as a gay couple to get these other two to get married and be invited to the wedding, etc., etc., etc. To get at is it his mom? I guess his mom, or get at the groom's mom, rather. There's a lot of complex leverage there, but it's a good episode. Definitely watch the last couple episodes if you want to get an idea of how good Catch can be. And of course, the wedding's on and the master plan happens, and they use that against Mommy Dearest. I believe Reese and Margot end up away, but taking over different areas. So we still have some running contention on the board about what's going to happen, but Margot is decidedly against Alice from the security company, and Reese is trying to get Ben, but Ben and Alice are working together just enough to make it good. Oi, a lot going on. About halfway there. No, we're more than that. Over on the Flash, the Flash not being fast is pretty boring. I'm just gonna be honest. If he's not gonna be quippy and funny, like I like my Flash to be, like he was in Justice League cartoons, he at least has to be fast, so that we have some kind of spectacle going on that we can applaud. Because Zoom being fast just means that there is spectacle that we can abhor. And not carrying either way doesn't help me a whole lot. But somehow Caitlyn does get away from Zoom, which is good. But Zoom doesn't care because he can always get back at her. Because no one can really stop him. They can just react to him, which is silly that the rules allow that. But it's comics' weird rule. Even if this isn't comics, this is definitely written as a TV show. But the point is that Girder ends up being zombified by the new blast. Barry ends up being sent into the Speed Force. There was two people who were unconscious for whatever reason. I really thought Wells' daughter was going to end up being a meta, but she's just super smart, so she can actually help out. So they've got a stacked team. I was actually impressed that the Flash team was so much smaller than the Arrow team, but now they're pretty much comparative. Flash has much more support than action, and Arrow has more action than support because it's really just Felicity and her gay BFF. Cannot remember his name. I apologize. On occasion, and her dad, and their mom, and Captain Lance, I guess. There's a lot of people involved. That's ridiculous. But he comes back with his speed intact because he made friends with the Speed Force. And if the Speed Force is a living entity, why can't it get away from Zoom? Oh, so many questions. But it's nice to see Laurel come back as a villain. I liked her so much more as a villain. She comes back as Black Siren in the next episode, being one of Zoom's top lieutenants. But being that they found a way to disable all of Earth 2 citizens at once is amazing. And I did not know they had the holding capacity for all that. Though I do wish Cisco wouldn't taunt villains in their little cubes. It doesn't make anything any better. But of course, Zoom escapes because he can jump dimensions whenever he wants. It's a dumb rule. But he comes back and kills Barry's father, or he appears to kill Barry's father because we don't end up wrapping up on that. And Barry just needs to kill Zoom already. That's what needs to happen. It's what needs to happen. Over in Elementary, oh my god, I hope this is the end of the season because I cannot imagine it ending any better. Uh, Vickner is the guy, the professor that I couldn't remember that is currently at the head of the organization. And it's Moriarty's organization, but it's not. And Vickner is trying to find ways to get at Holmes and Watson for no reason other than just to defy Moriarty, it seems, and go after and to hurt Senior Holmes. So of course they're going toe to toe, and Moreland is not used to losing. So in everything that happens, Moreland wins out and is now head of the organization, so he can dismantle parts of it. Now, nature abhors a vacuum, so I can only imagine what's going to happen when the organization pulls out of New York, like he claims, to help protect Watson and Holmes. And I don't know what Moriarty's going to say about Moreland disassembling her organization. However slowly he does it, Moriarty should be able to see it because she's supposed to be that much of a genius. I'm really hoping that Moriarty comes back into the fray, but with her work on Game of Thrones, not that she's in it a whole lot. Fuck. I'm wondering if there aren't scheduling issues there, but hopefully she comes back to Elementary long enough to give us a good bit of storyline. I want to see contention between her, Holmes, and Holmes' new girlfriend, which they've suspiciously not mentioned. And I'm not even entirely sure that they're still dating. We just know that they banged. And good for them. Okay, so Marvel's Age of the Shield. The last 3 episodes are kind of a reaction to Captain America Civil War, which I still think that they ruined Civil War, and they can't... They broke the damn universe... Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop myself. But because of the Idiotic Registration Act, S.H.I.E.L.D. has to register its Inhumans. Course. The primitives are created. What else is here? Oh, that helps a little bit. And then Daisy's recovering in herself. A lot of setup for things, and the primitives being created for Hive is huge. Even if they were created under duress. So S.H.I.E.L.D. ends up launching an assault on Hive, stops them from taking over nukes, except for one. No, that's different show, sorry. Weird how those things line up. But the dynamic duo, the telekinetic and the pyrokinetic, end up getting in the warhead and taking it away for Hive. And S.H.I.E.L.D. captures Hive, which I thought was pretty ingenious that they could make that happen in quick succession enough where you couldn't react. However, if we go into the next episode, it looks like it was very much part of the plan to have Hive infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. base. Because for whatever reason, explosives managed to get through, which doesn't make any sense at all. And then one guy ends up turning into a primitive and dragging another guy into the fog to make him a primitive, etc., 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 which is somewhat of an ingenious plan, but I don't enjoy that it was that easy, because they make it look easy. They really do. And so, like, suddenly S.H.I.E.L.D's in this life-or-death battle against these people, and while I'm all about curing people who need to be cured, like, put them down. They've turned, we've lost them, put them down. S.H.I.E.L.D. should be one of those places where everyone is always armed. And if you're walking around with anything more than a pistol, then maybe you're suspicious, but everyone should be able to react. They shouldn't be able to take the armory and then everyone's fucked. But they really ingenious how they built it up. The whole idea being that the Zephyr Quinjet or whatever is able to go to high altitude. They were going to use a warhead to explode the virus, to disperse the virus at a high enough altitude to cover, what was it, like 70% of the world or something. Super impressive plan, but we're back to like seeing the future bullshit and like not being able to change the future. but the future's unclear, so there's still variables to be had. And then we have noble sacrifices. And given that Daisy actively tried to go back to Hive at one point, oh my God, she is a liability and a half. Is she lost at that point, or is she just a drug addict? Like, I don't know how you deal with that once she's away. Uh, and it becomes this very weird, calm thing. The way it ends, it's like, well, I've been taken away from all my resources. There's nothing else going on. Let's just sit back and enjoy the end of the world, which is really weird. The only thing I can think of is that, like, maybe the bits of Hive that are left on the planet could possibly reform. Because we actually get to see Hive's face, and he is a full thing, but he's supposed to be made up of all these little worms, essentially. But it was really cool to see him and Coulson face off. Um, and it, to me, is a really good ending. They can't go any further than that. That needs to be on hiatus till the next season. It really does. Over on Stitchers, I was really impressed with this as a murder mystery because it reminded me a lot of The Strain, or at least the beginning of it. Like 12 people die on a plane, and it's totally a mystery about how it happens. You got one guy even writing like a note to his family, like as if he's going to commit suicide. Um, and you've got someone on a laptop using mystery tech, and you've got some asshole on their iPhone. Like, I really like they pulled an iPhone into the villainy. I thought that was nice. But you've got like a 12-hour window or something where they're you have to release these people so they can get back on their flight. It's ridiculous. But the idea that somebody could use your passport to kill you and simulate a heart attack is amazing. I really like that because it's almost feasible. Or it seems feasible. It's just so out there. And then following that up, we've got the side storyline of Kirsten looking for her dad. The department is theoretically looking for her dad as well, and apparently it caused some kind of conflict at some point because she gets ordered to stand down. But of course, the things that she's already set in motion are happening, and she meets up with her sister in order to get information with, or half sister to get information on their father. And this is really great back and forth, and so you don't know if they're really going to be enemies or friends by the end of the episode, and it's all new, and they're dealing with it, etc., etc. So I kind of want her as an asset. I don't know if I want her fully read in yet. I think if you rush it, you waste potential in the character, because there's a lot of value in having a character that doesn't know a lot but is involved. And Kirsten ruined that quick when she just told a bunch of people. The weird thing is if Ivy Brown is really in contact with Stinger, their dad, then she would be able to know what the technology that Kirsten is using from him and not from Kirsten. So it means that Stinger doesn't want Ivy to know either, or Ivy is pretending to know things and be things that she's not, which is interesting. And given that the thing with Liam is not going great because she was called down in no contact with that, but she pursued, it seems that someone really wanted it all hushed up because Liam was killed. Now, it could have been that Ivy killed him, and that whatever motions that she's got going on her side of the fence want Liam to keep quiet about things. Or it could be that Stinger killed Liam, or it could be that her department, the NSA, killed Liam to keep him from revealing intel to Kirsten. It's very very much a show of secrets, and I'm enjoying looking for them. It does remind me a lot of Fringe in places, and it reminds me of a lot of Covert Affairs in places. I'm really glad to have this show, if I'm being honest. Over on Supernatural, the long and short of it is they spend an episode trying to save Lucifer, and they lose Metatron in the process. I'm sure you're trading up because it's basically a human for Castiel and Lucifer. But when you're dealing with the god level, like, I don't know if you can have enough guns, and they certainly try. They cock back 48 barrels on her on the next episode because they really try to go at her. I mean, they've got a worldwide network coven, essentially. They've got Heaven shoots a blast at them. Lucifer and Castiel take a punch. The Winchesters throw what little they have at her. I think they're really orchestrators more than anything. But the big thing comes down to like her emotional well-being being struck about being put back in the box, and so she gets one up on God somehow. I don't understand this at all, but if she's got the same level of capabilities as God, there's no reason that whoever acts first wouldn't be able to do it. Now, he was actively trying to seal her away, so I don't know, maybe that allowed a vulnerability for her to exploit. I don't know. Over on Arrow, Dark is preparing for Genesis, and I really like the idea of Genesis. I think the Lazarus method is something that would work, so it's interesting for me to have a perspective on a villain side that I relate to, and it's like, yeah, that could work, and people are awful. But when you are awful people handpicking awful people to survive, it's not much better. You're just going to perpetuate things. And how do you really judge that? So, but the fact that Thea's taken really spurs them on and helps lead to their own demise, just because Merlin's involved with this cool new hand. He hasn't learned yet that trying to save Thea ultimately fucks up whatever else he's planning. You really got to pick and choose your battles, and you'd think he would understand that. And then there's this ongoing battle to keep nuclear weapons out of Dark's hand, because Dark's totem works on death, but I figured there'd be a proximity involved. It's not just he gets powered up for everyone on the planet who dies. You'd have to be somewhere nearby, or focused on it, or something. But we're getting all the flashbacks where the lady starts going insane because she's bonded with the totem. She starts absorbing power from people's deaths. And I guess the first thing that happens when you do that is you get like the instructional manual downloaded into your brain on how this all works. And then you start getting power after that. Because it's really silly. But getting Felicity's dad involved to to hack the nuclear controls and deal with counter-hacking measures is insane. And the fact that her mom and dad can fight at the time like this is amazing. It is. But Oliver and Spartan go after, or Diggle go after Thea, which is interesting because there's all these conversations with the brainwashies and the citizens of Genesis. And then Merlin does a good thing and helps with the evacuation. I don't know why they don't just kill him at this point. There's got to be a breaking point, because Merlin's already like you've proven you're not going to kill me, so why should I listen to anything you have to say? And if anyone ever says that to you, you kill them, because that means that they refuse to be reasoned with. And of course the heroes get away with everything, but Dark is super powered at this point. Like he's vaporizing arrows and bullets, and like reflexively, not even on purpose. Like he even mentioned, he's like, I didn't even mean to do that. I just wanted to stop him. But it's actually kind of a foreshadowing that the power that he has is going to get away from him. Because if he charges up anymore, who knows what else he might do on accident. And I'm willing to bet that at one point he's going to vaporize his wife. And then he's going to have a moment where he's like, that's not what I want out of this at all. Or she could just be a linchpin to controlling the city. I don't know. But of course, he shows up after Felicity and her dad, because we knew that was going to happen. And it doesn't help that like he obviously has all the information he needs on everything when he should have got shanked in prison. He really should have. But we probably would have had like a Punisher scene. Eventually, if something like that had been tried. Over on Castle, oh my god, what a fucking episode. they shoved a lot into such a little episode. They really like they finally go toe to toe with Locksat. Um, and I'm just gonna spoiler all over this because it is not worth trying to hide. It is a good episode and you should watch it. But spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. It turns out it's the fucker from the Great Detective Society manipulating everything altogether. And of course, if your friend's your enemy, you don't really know. But he's a clever fucker. I'll give you that. And so there are some things that happen that are just really amazing that they even set up. Um, but of course, like you get your happy ending, and they're about to like make eggs or fucking whatever or have sex, and then the guy who they declared was dead shows up and shoots both of them. And to me, that's a clear indication that like this may be why Beckett's not going to be in the next season. I think they're really going to kill off Beckett because at this point Beckett holds more weight in the show than Castle does, and if they kill Beckett off, that motivates Castle to really go after this douchebag, who's not Locksat, but he's pretty good. So I think without Beckett, I think it's an even playing field. So I really think we're just gonna have to see what happens next season. And I'm pretty sure the 100's done too, because it is the show that is unlike any other show. Why is Grimm all the way down there? Oh, because I didn't change the thing. Okay, so real quick, we'll do Grimm. So we're really like we're gearing up at the end of the season here for a lot of these shows. For Grimm, like Hank ends up going against his little girlfriend because she's a way to get at Black Claw, and the guy Sebastian, is that his name? I don't know. The guy in charge of everything right now is a fucker. Because he's a Zauer Beast, which is apparently just a male version of a Hexen Beast, which to me has no reason for the distinction. But it's fun to see them go, or Eve and Sebastian go at each other, because that happens. Oh my gosh, spoilers all over the place. But of course, Adeline's not happy with everything. Her little daughter's out of control, and all her daughter wants is for them to be a happy family. Which is not going to happen because Renard's a douchebag and he likes banging this other chick that Diana kills, because I thought that was fun. And of course, Adeline's trying to do whatever she can on her side of things. Nick and the guys are going toe-to-toe with all these grunts and just often a lot of people. A whole precinct's worth, really. Because dirty cops suck, and I'm so happy they killed off all those fuckers. But again, this is one branch. They're trying to make a statement in Portland, but that doesn't mean that Black Claw's gone after this, so they could be fighting this battle the rest of their lives. For whatever reason, Rosalie declares that she's pregnant. I'm just trying to think of other things that happen. Wu's actually fighting back using his lycanthropy, because he's actually getting control of it. And as goofy as he looks, I'm really kind of happy that he's stepping up to the battle. Because I was worried for the humans. I really was. Myers goes down. No thanks to Renard's stupid ass. Because Diana cares about Mommy and Renard, she ends up being the linchpin and everything. So the two most interesting things really are that that Eve is healed by the magic stick, and it might undo the things that Myers did to her to brainwash her into being on their side. So she could be the next villain again as Juliet, because she is not Robot Eve anymore. She's very much scared little Juliet with Nick, but we don't know if it healed her Hexen Beast powers. We don't know. We don't know. We just know that she would have been dead otherwise. But Diana should be the next villain, really. I think it's really what it comes down to. But she doesn't need a lot to keep that monster happy. She makes Renard kill Sebastian, which I thought was funny. So either Renard takes over Black Claw, or he steps down in a way, concentrates on his family, which is full of its own contention. So back onto the show that isn't like every other show, the 100. Clark and crew infiltrating Polis like they do is amazing. They got that far without being captured. Fan fucking amazing. Because as soon as they shot that first guy on the wheel, like they really should have been swarmed. I don't know what was so much more important that Allie wasn't able to send troops there. Because she ends up sending Kane with a group, and like it seems like a very small group, and it doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe it's just she wanted to send people that she knew they would have a harder time killing. Maybe that's the point. But Raven keeps hacking away. She finds like all these back doors and everything. And then as they get closer and closer to the throne room, Allie has that last Nightblood brained. Jaha ends up like knocking her skull in, just to keep Clark away from being able to use the flame. And oh my gosh, so like that's where you gotta get creative, really. Because now they're trapped in Polis at this point with a dying Nightblood, a bunch of chippers, and then people who have started to climb the building to get at them. And maybe that's the start of the next episode, but fuck. So they take a book out of Mount Weather and they start a live transfusion. Though the Nightblood dies in the process. So they've got to like physically pump her heart to keep the blood flowing properly. And there's just a wild inaccuracy with the air in the tube. The air in the tube, that if that went into her veins, would have killed her. That is not how that would work at all. Once you, in order to get the transfusion to go, the way you get the blood going is between the pumping of the heart and you leak the air out of the tube, and then you seal the tube, so that it's one continuous system. Clark's heart would have kept it pumping just enough, unless the dead heart would have actually closed the valve, and then you would have had Clark seizing like she did. But the air in the tube was for the audience. It's just wrong. So now that Clark has Nightblood, she can take the flame. And they attach it. Yeah, they attach it directly to her spine where it's supposed to end up, so it doesn't have to dig anywhere, which is nice. But you run into that whole thing where her body's rejecting it, and so she runs to Alexa inside because she's got the flame, and because she's got the chip as well, or because she took the chip as well, she's actually accessing Allie's network. But between Betty and Allie and her and Alexa, like, she gets all the information that she needs and all the access that she needs, and Raven helping, of course, hacking away. She has spent way too long deciding whether or not to pull the switch, and the contention is actually kind of interesting. The nuclear fallout has started, and I'm willing to bet Allie started it. At the nuclear reactors, they're finally failing and causing nuclear radiation on disastrous levels, and Allie claims to be able to handle it on her own if she has the resources to work with, where her original program was to essentially cause fallouts, a nuclear winter, and kill everyone and start the planet over. So you can't really trust Allie at all. But even the other AI is concerned, and so watching two AIs talk in real time is fucking boring. As beautiful as it is to have two Erica Sierras on the screen, pull the switch and kill her, Clark, and be done with it. That is about 5 minutes too long, honestly. But now that's the setup for the next season. Is that, oh yeah, by the way, we're all gonna die still. But is everyone united on a single front at this point? Is what's left of Sky Crew going to be accepted into the clans or into the alliance? Is there even going to be an alliance? There are no more Nightbloods. There is no person other than Luna to take over as commander with the flame. Now you could have a non-flamed commander, but I don't know the rules. Over on Game of Thrones, there's so much going on here. I need to start doing a better blog or something on these more detailed shows. Um, the high points are definitely like they sneak into the Drathaki. Shit, I can't even say it. Into the Wilders' sacred village, and they lock Daenerys in with all the people who want to rape and kill her, and then she burns them alive because she is the unburnt. Over in Marion, like Tyrion sets up the deal with the slavers. The free people don't like it, but there's a delicate peace stored, and I really think once Daenerys comes back, she's just gonna fucking kill everything. We're gonna see her cleanse the fucking city. It's like, if you were loyal to me, you come here in this location, and if you are anyone else, stand against me properly, and we'll get rid of you. I really think that's what it's going to be. I think she's going to take out all the other members of Slaver's Bay, until there's nothing but the slaves left. I think the masters ran out their welcome, and she's going to be the breaker of vows on top of chains at this point, because whether she likes it or not, Tyrion and Ferris set up things in her stead, to include you alright? Jeez. Include a deal with the priestess that I'm not sure is actually going to go well. It's nice to see her gain another facet of support, or two more facets of support, three if you think about it. The Dothraki army as well, but that whole storyline, let's just continue that. Jorah finally shows her the grayscale, and obviously he doesn't know the cure, and I order you to find your cure and return to me. It's ridiculous, but I actually like the idea that there is a cure somewhere, because it's supposed to be a magical disease. Now, the funny bit is probably that the Priestess of Light that Tyrion made a deal with could probably cure him, but he's going anywhere but the one place that's going to happen. So they're probably going to have to send somebody back out after him to bring him back to be cured, and it's going to be just in time. Ridiculous. But yeah, she's got to release the dragons and really step up her game. Because news of her has actually reached the Greyjoy. And that whole contention between... Because I was looking forward to them having a queen and having... not Tywin. Cannot remember their names. Having the flayed one... sister end up stepping up. And I really thought it was going to be a good way to go. But with their uncle back in the mix... there's no guarantee that he wouldn't have killed them, so like them and their loyal followers take a boat, or two, or three, or something, and they run away to be Greyjoy, while he builds the fleet that they wanted to build. But his move, of course, is to give that fleet to Daenerys to use against the Seven Kingdoms, which I actually really like for our Daenerys storyline. But I would rather almost that, like, he builds the fleet and then she takes back over somehow. And not that she goes against Daenerys, but she acts as an ally instead of a subservient. Like we've got with the Boltons. Because the Boltons against Sansa, the Starks, really. And it's really against the North. Because in the North, we're establishing that there's real threat, and that the South is so unstable that they can't use it as a fallback point at this point, because they're looking at abandoning the wall, one way or the other. They brought the wildlings back behind there for support. They've got to look at not using the wall and fighting on a broader field of battle, which is not good for anyone that we like, anyways. But with the Boltons trying to take over the North and being dickheads and just trying to take the North for themselves, so they're like, haha, we've got the North. It's interfering with a lot of things, and not just that Sansa is his sister, and that he wants his sister to be in charge. Because we're really at a point where, as if Sansa is killed, Jon is not eligible to be Warden of the North, not only because he's a bastard, uh, though Ramsay has altered that perception, but because he's Lord Commander of the Knights of the Watch, he's been disavowed from the Starks. So he's got 2 strikes against him, where Ramsay really only has 1. So, oh my God, that is really going to be quite the worrisome thing. That Sansa goes down, and that Ramsay and Snow actually have to work together against the White Walkers. That would be an interesting united front, and that may be what we see. Because right now the contending point is to bound all the little houses against these like 3 big houses that are coming against the Starks. Because Snow needs Winterfell in order for the Watch to hold the North properly. Against the White Walkers too. And we've learned more about the White Walkers, that the children actually created them and they've gone out of control, which is amazing. That the children are actively fighting against them and can't win. Because the children are supposed to be like super magical. So why wouldn't they be able to set wards and things against their creation and their creations? But we did see another one of the fuckers fall. I think it was an obsidian tipped spear that hit him. The problem is that every time these weapon caches happen, like, they fall. Like, it's like, okay, we've got something we can use against the White Walkers, and they disappear. They go away. They're not protected. They're not carried away. And, like, this stand, like, it's just Graham and the girl that get away. Like, even Hodor goes away. But learning Hodor's backstory, worth it. Though I felt super bad for Hodor, to like a million degrees. But the biggest things are that you can affect the past when you cite like that. That the past can affect you. And we're eventually going to see zombie Hodor. It's just the fact of it. Because there's no way that he gets away. The only way that he gets away is that if Graham gets far enough away, the White Walkers lose interest and leave. And they just walk away from the door. And I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. I don't see that being the way that the story goes. And what's happening here. I probably don't need my notes for the rest of this, but I'd like them. Mean little surface. So we've got that going on all in the north. Meanwhile, the Lannisters are finally getting on the same page. Finally. And it's like there's this eventual plot to go to war with Dorne, but they've got to take hold of their city properly first. And Tommen is actually the biggest thing holding them back, because he's made friends with the Sparrow. And I don't know why you can make friends with someone who wants to destroy you, but he's worried about Marjorie, and that's their big point. They've got to do a surgical strike against Marjorie. They've got to use whatever armies that they have to strike against the Order Militant properly. Now, that could also be part of the reason why the Eyrie was able to take River Run, is because they pulled troops. Lannisters pulled troops out of there. But the Eyrie has started to gear up and to join the fray, and I really like that Sansa essentially is going to have an army, not of her own, but that is dedicated to her, which really sucks. Like, Sansa's in like the worst possible point of being a noble. Not only is she a girl in a man's world, but she has no direct followers. She has like so few resources, and then she's got to send them away to do things. Like Brienne of Tarth, like that is her number one resource, and she's got to send her as a messenger to deal with Littlefinger and get those troops up there for the north. And we spent a lot of time like out, I think it's east, with Daenerys, and a lot of time in the north. There's not a lot going on otherwise right now. Um, but Jamie and Siri finally be able to get on board with the small council and all be on the same page of like, look, we all want the same thing. We all have to fix this scenario, this situation that we're in, regardless of who caused it, and we can deal with whatever reparations later. Not that they're gonna ever get to that. Yeah. And the only other thing, because Arya's not even in the Seven Kingdoms either. She's in Bravos. Uh, Arya is finally like at her tests. She's like only got a couple more chances to be a no one and serve the many faced god, and she's dedicated. But I think she's just missing what it is to be them. Um, and that's their whole point, is that they were beggars and thieves, and they were from the salt of the earth, and she was a noble who had everything and then had nothing and then walked in, and so she's always got this soft spot that she can't quite shake, and that's what they're trying to get out of her, and she doesn't realize what they're trying to do, um, by being so fucking awful to her, really. As supportive as the guy's actually being, the girl is actually, as much as she looks like she actually hates Arya, like she's actually doing everything she can to knock that little bit out of her so that she's good. I've talked for quite a while. My throat is actually sore. Thank you for watching, listening, however you ingest this. I enjoy talking about this stuff. It's what I like to do. I'm going to do some tests over the next week. I think I will definitely do it with Game of Thrones, Silicon Valley, and whatever the more complicated shows are, and just try to blog it a little bit over on probably houseofkamuraibuilt.tumblr.com, and just as a test, and then I can copy the blog over as notes, and we can see where we land on that. And I think doing it in this as the summer starts and a lot of these shows just ended will be good, because I'll have less of a load to do, and it'll give me a smaller window to work with. But until you see me next time, oh man, this is all new. How do I do this? I think I can do it this way. Nope, that didn't work. Until you see me next time, I am Kamurai. Have a nice day. Nope. Bye. Bye. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations, and it'll take you to other channels. Thanks for watching.